Hello, everybody. It's Bubba Rob. How's it going? Good, I hope, right? Awesome. Excuse me for coughing. It's a beautiful day. I won't sing Mr. Rogers again. I don't know. I just not much of a singer. I'd like to be. I always wanted to be a rock star, but it didn't quite happen. But that's okay, because my earbuds are falling out. But anyways, the topic of today is going to be on something I've touched on already. But I want to talk about judgment, but a little bit differently today because I was doing some research. I had my tea and, I forgot my, my big headphones in my stand. I have the little stand I put the phone on, and it makes me feel like at IMAX, I call it, right? But no, I didn't have it, so I'm like thinking, oh, what am I going to do? This is going to ruin my morning. I don't got my comfy setup in my local Starbucks. So anyways, what I did was I took some time. I had my tablet with me, and I started looking into different perspectives from different people on Stoicism, and I googled a couple of things, and reading what people had to say in op-eds and oh, what are they? Substack, right? Kind of got me thinking, and my buddy Jeff showed up and having a tea, and I was going to do a video on a subject, but my mind changed. I kind of want to talk about this. And what it is, and I imagine it is very stoic and very mindful, but one of the worst things we do when we look at other people and we listen to them and stuff like that, we get into like a passing the judgment, right? We really have a tendency to forget that we need to walk in our own shoes and not somebody else's. Or should it be viewed the other way around, or walking in somebody else's shoes? I mean, you're not walking in somebody else's shoes, so you don't know what's happened. Especially when you comment on someone, their vocation, what they've done, whether it's morally or ethically okay. Especially nowadays, there's everybody's got their cell phone out and videotaping people, especially police officers. I mean, there's a lot of gotcha things out there, right? Not to say what people do or say police officers, right, or whoever, or do is necessarily appropriate, but we got to kind of put things in context a bit. And I just use that as an example, is that we don't really know what's happened. We don't really know what they've gone through. We really don't know what's triggered them or what's going on. We have no idea. And I told both my kids in life, when they decided what they want to do for a living, they needed to be somewhat selfish. And they're kind of looking at me a little bit funny and stuff. And they said, "What do you mean by that?" And I said, "Well," and I was telling them that this is adults and as kids. I said, your dad's had a rough time, and part of it stems from, 9 years working in the correctional service and seeing different things. And, that's not everything they did, but, it's got a cumulative effect. And I know lots of people that have been in the military or the police or the fire department, I've done multiple different programs, i.e., the Wounded Warriors of Canada, and I've had a lot of exposure to it. And I said, you need to be selfish and don't do that for a living. And they said, why? I said, you'll never be right. You'll never be normal. Sorry, people out there, if this offends you or it triggers you, but there's certain things that you do that have an everlasting effect on your mental health and your perception of others and your own behavior. So when you're on the outside looking in, say Joe Blow citizen or Jeanette Blow citizen, right? Or he, she, Joe Blow citizen, whatever it is, right? I'm trying to be politically correct, but you're viewing at things, and you're not walking in that person's shoes. You just don't. You don't know what's happened. So I find it very sad, and I'm not saying people aren't entitled to their opinions, but you really don't know. Try and have a little bit of compassion for people when you see stuff that's gone viral before you chime in and condemn people. It's a tough world out there. Is this all making sense? Is it? I hope it does. It's the same thing when you're, especially now that I saw a clip the other day, and I keep seeing this photo all the time, and there's those white supremacists wear the masks that were riding, I guess is it the subway system? Going to that march, and there was the little African American gal that was sitting by herself. God, what a powerful photo. Unbelievable. Where am I going with this? With that? Yeah, what I'm saying is, those guys wearing the mask, I got no respect for that. Especially when they're hiding identity. But anyways, the reason is I'm bringing that up is a little bit of, I don't know, maybe a different perspective on it, is that when you've gone to that extreme in that type of movement, where you're passing judgment on people because you've convinced yourself, because your ethnicity or the color of your skin, you're more important or more intelligent, you've totally lost the boat. That's probably a really prime example of passing judgment. That's brutal. And then when I look at the photo and coming from my perspective, I'm thinking, are they really that bad? I don't know, probably, but they've gone too far. Yeah, that's why we have to be very careful with what we see and how we judge things. You see a lot of it on social media, the labeling. I don't know as if it's necessarily fair. Yeah, I don't know. Is this making sense? I hope it makes sense. But what I'm trying to say is, if really the most important thing to be a good person is have some kindness, we got to be really cognizant of when we're passing judgment on people because they're different. And have a little bit of compassion when somebody's blowing a fuse and something doesn't go right. Doesn't make what their action is correct, all right? But kind of be careful how you think about it and how you act on it. If something's really that grievous, then the legal system should take care of it. You know, in most places it will. You know, that's just my opinion. Anyways, I hope that helps. I hope it's kind of stoic. I hope that adds to people to think a little bit when things are going wrong. You know, we are all responsible for our behavior and what we put out there. And just think about a little bit about the message you're putting out. If something's that bad, maybe try and, you know, think about it a little different. Maybe if you were there, if that was you, if that was your child, you know, hopefully they get some help. Anyways, remember, the most important thing in this life is to be kind. Be kind to yourself, okay? That's it. Just be a good person out there. Spread that. The world will get better. Through kindness and compassion, we'll surely take this world back to where it needs to be. Okay? I hope you all have a great day. Love you all. Bye-bye.